saw an old man in a veteran's hat at the service station.
Hello and welcome to Telling It Like It Is, UGA Extension and Southeast History's newest source for local, unbiased, research-based information about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. As always, my name is Blake Carter, and I am one of the two hosts for Telling It Like It Is. My normal co-host is actually not going to be able to be a part of this episode. She is actually taking a much-needed vacation. And a little bit of a break. So it's just going to be me on this one. But I have brought in a really good friend and former familiar Georgia ag agent face in Taylor McDaniel from NC State. She is now the Horticulture Extension Agent in Brunswick County. Taylor, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been patiently waiting for my turn on the podcast, so glad to finally be here.
I appreciate it. Before we get to what Taylor has to enlighten us with and talk about, I wanted to do a new segment. I'm going to call it Hot Off the Press. All right. This is straight from some of the most clicked on or sought after information on either UGA's news websites or just agriculture websites in general, agriculture news outlets. And so one that I wanted to talk about for our first segment on this is UGA today actually posted this article on June 5th. So shout out Savannah Pete. And I've probably seen these things before, but I never really knew what to look for until I read this article. So I appreciate it. But and Taylor, you might have seen these too, but Asian needle ants. All right. So this is a new, not new, but an invasive threat that I kind of want to just like touch on for those folks that we get calls a lot of times about fire ants. Well, it could be that you might not actually have fire ants you're dealing with. It could be Asian needle ants. So, we love to talk about Joro spiders here in Georgia, but this one's another one that's another big invasive species for us. And it's becoming what's quote unquote medical pest. So Taylor, do you know what that means?
No, I don't, but reading up on it sounds like the allergies are pretty similar to bees and wasps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have never thought of this being a medical pest, so to speak. When it comes to an ant, most of the time you just get those bumps, the reaction from the bites and things like that. But this particular ant actually does have a needle and that actually injects venom into their target or whatnot. So it can actually be a life-threatening issue if similar to like a bee sting and things like that. So the pain from these ants actually can come back days later. So the spread of that needle ant is very important, understanding where they're at in the yard and things like that. If you have them, you might think you might have got bit by a regular ant, but if it comes back and it's something different, then you might actually be dealing with something that's of the Asian needle ant. Now, it's easier to distinguish than you think it is. Now, they are sneaky little critters. They are small. They're about 3/16 of an inch. So they're very tiny. But if you actually get a magnifying glass or like a hand lens, or if you bring it if you have some ants and you collect them and bring them into your local extension office, we can use hand lens and things that we have on hand to kind of identify that with y'all. But it actually does. If you look on the back of the ant, it has a small little needle that is kind of like a wasp needle or something like that. So a wasp stinger or something. So it's really easy to identify if you have the right tools. But it can be unnoticed by the naked eye. So some other characteristics to really just think about if you're out there, out in the woods or out in your fields and things like that this summer. They typically do not have mounds. They actually don't establish foraging trails, so that you can actually that you would normally be able to see and things like that. They kind of stay lower to the ground, and they typically are around kind of hardwood habitats. So if you have wood lines and things like that in your backyard, higher moisture areas under rocks, stones, After the hurricane, you probably have some dead trees or dead limbs and things in your bag. Those are really good places for these particular ants. So as you're going through the summer, just be very cautious and be aware of that. It can have you can have those allergic reaction like symptoms. So just be cautious. A lot of more so probably the young children and things like that, grandchildren, children, things of that nature as they're playing outside, so they don't get into them. But like I said, if you think you have something that doesn't look like a fire ant, you want it identified, please by all means bring them up to the extension office. We'd be happy to help you. And I want to throw in one more plug for this hot off the press segment before we get to the main attraction. And this is more for our hunters out there. I was reading today, I got the Georgia Farm Bureau's magazine. I was reading in it about the Hunters for the Hungry. So I'm very, very excited that this is continuing and that we're continuing to promote it. And we actually got a update from Camp Hand earlier today, our cotton agronomist. And I'll just kind of talk through a little bit of what some of these updates are. So many producers are utilizing the permit program this time of year to deter deer from their crops. In the last 2 years, there's been a significant expansion efforts towards the Hunters for the Hungry program, and particularly through these investments from state legislature. So we're really happy to know that the state's really buying into helping with this matter. Our state deer biologist has worked really hard on this, Charlie Kilmaster. And they've compiled a really good detailed list of the different Hunters for the Hungry processors around the state. So if you want to look that up, it comes up with the different ones. Some may be willing to come and actually get the deer out of the field. Others may need to meet growers or others at the processor after utilizing the DNR depredation permit. So please reach out to the processors in your area. If you intend to utilize these programs this summer. If you're not familiar, this program is a way to donate meat that would otherwise go to waste, particularly from culling out a lot of does and deer pressure in crops. Those aren't considered harvestable deer up until this point. And so now that meat can actually be harvested and donated to local food banks and people that need some access to food and things like that. So I think it's a very great program. Also, some other opportunities, in addition to the expansion of the Hunters for the Hungry program, we've also been pushing hard to add a weekend during archery season where hunters can harvest antlerless deer only with the utilization of a modern firearm. So they approved this addition just a few days ago, the DNR advisory board. So I want to just throw out there to everybody that on October 4th and 5th, all right, typically this would be bow season, you get to go, you can actually harvest antlerless deer using modern firearms. So it's 2 weeks earlier than what's normally set. There will only be 16 counties, though, in Georgia that will be trialing this. So there is a map. If you're curious about that, reach out to your local extension agent. We'll try to get this up on the blog, too, so y'all have that. But there are 16 counties. So if your county is in that, you get to actually have that special opportunity to do so. So please take advantage of that. Even if you're not a person that does crops or is a farmer full-time, deer pressure for these guys is extremely, extremely costly. And in years where markets are not very lucrative or advantageous for farmers, it's that much more imperative that their yields do not take a significant hit. And we can all do our part to help out with that in terms of if you're a hunter. So please look up more information and kind of do some homework on that if this is something that you're interested in. See if there's a processor nearby. Work with your local processors. Work with your local farmers. If you're wanting to get in touch with some of these guys that are needing some assistance with hunting on some of their land, get with your extension agent. See if there's some farmers that might need that assistance or might be needing somebody just to hunt their properties and things like that. So I just encourage you to get with your county agent and get with some of your local folks. So that was kind of the new segment, hot off the press. Now we're going to kind of get into the main meat of it. And I'm excited to have Taylor on here. Taylor, I want to say thank you for joining us. And to start with, can you tell just for our sake in Georgia, you've worked in Georgia, now you've worked at NC State. Can you tell a little bit of the differences, the similarities from extensions? Because it's even agents might not realize how different other extensions operate. But can you kind of give us a little bit of an inside scoop on that?
Yeah, so being involved with two different states, cooperative extension services, I've kind of had the opportunity to learn about both of these states' strengths and then places where they could maybe improve on. One of the big similarities between the University of Georgia and NC State University Cooperative Extension is that we are still county-based employees. We agents serve one county. We do have situations where we have tri-county agents here, but for the most part, if you are an agent, you are solely based in one county. And I really feel like that's one of the strengths between UGA and NC State that we are able to really get to know that community that you work and maybe live in. And you can really service those people to the fullest extent. I know other places who are more regionally based or state based might struggle with getting a full grasp and really getting down and integrated into the community and setting roots there. So that's one of the biggest similarities. Um, I think
Now, hold up. Now, I want to question you because your title's horticulture agent. So tell me this: even though you're county based, does that mean that you kind of have a specialty areas, or how's that work?
Yeah, so that was something else that I was going to mention, something that I really like that NC State does. Um, I am a consumer horticulture agent here, and there is a difference between a consumer horticulture agent and a commercial horticulture agent.
Yep.
We also have row crop agents, forestry agents, urban agriculture agents, and then area and natural resource agents. So we do get that chance to specialize in a certain topic area that falls underneath agriculture and natural resources, and it kind of relieves a lot of the pressure. I know when I was at the University of Georgia, I was working down in South Georgia, so your specialty is kind of based on what you have a lot of in your area, but you would still answer calls about maybe turf grass or something like related to ornamental plants if you were primarily row crop. And here I just answer questions about consumer horticulture. So I am consumer facing with the residents of Brunswick County, answering their plant and turf grass questions. I'm actually one of the lucky ones because I do get to use my UGA background and I have an agriculture appointment, but that is just because we do have a large base of farmers here. We're a pretty big county. It takes an hour to go from north to south of our county, and the south end of our county is solely farms and nurseries. So I do still get to do a little bit of it all, but I have that like one area of specialty that I can really hone in on, kind of lean back on, and not
Hmm.
get so much pressure to know everything about every area. So yeah.
That's that is nice. Now, like how many? What's your population of your county?
Oh gosh. So Brunswick County is the fastest growing county in North Carolina. I'm not sure exactly how many residents we have, but those numbers are increasing every single day. It's a destination county because we are on the coast. We have several beaches. They're beautiful beaches. I grew up going to these beaches and vacationing here, so I'm even a transplant, but people come from all over the country and even the world to come and live here in Brunswick County. So it's just absolutely booming in population.
Yeah, you're daggum right. I just looked up 2024. It says Brunswick County, North Carolina has a population of 167,000. Is that holy shiitakes?
So we are the fastest growing county in North Carolina. We are one of the biggest counties in land mass as well, too. So we just
That's
have a lot of
massive.
area. So
Good
I
Lord.
what close to 20 different municipalities in this county,
Hmm.
all
Yeah.
different rules, different
Wow.
expectations. And then within those 20 municipalities, cities, and towns, you go in even deeper to these suburban neighborhoods. it's kind of like perfect suburbia here. But within those 20 towns, you have all these neighborhoods that each and every single one of them have a different set of rules with their HOAs and their POAs. So it's a lot of different guidelines you have to become familiar with as you grow with the county for sure.
I just want to throw out for folks that don't know you and your background. When you were in Georgia, you were down in Southwest Georgia, and you were very much in ag country. But your counties, I just think it's so funny. Your total pop, you were over two counties. Your total population in Clay and Randolph when you were over there was less than 10,000 people.
Yep.
And you go from that to over 167,000 people is absolutely insane. I think that's very interesting. No wonder you have that as like your focal point. Because I mean, if you had to be a generalist for 167,000 people, I don't think anybody could do that alone.
Yeah.
Uh, that's
And
crazy.
for me, I grew up in a small town in southeastern North Carolina.
Hmm.
My town had 500 individuals in it. So when I moved to Athens, you're in a big college town.
That's
There's
right.
hundreds of thousands of people you come in contact with all the time. What? We have 90,000 people at a football game any given Saturday. So then moving to South Georgia, you're kind of taken back into that small town vibe, but it's not a small town you grew up in, so it's very different. You don't really know anyone. Coming
Yep.
back to Brunswick County, it is a big county, but it does feel like small town with a community of like my master gardeners who have been here for so long. They know everybody in their neighborhood, so they'll recommend me to their HOA to give like a presentation or something, or to their neighbor to help them out with a lawn issue. So you start to learn how people are connected within these neighborhoods. It kind of creates pockets of small town. So it's kind
Well,
of a
I think now you mentioned master gardeners. That's kind of interesting. So y'all do have master gardeners in your state too. So for those that don't know, would you share what that is?
yeah, so the Master Gardener program is a volunteer-based program here in North Carolina. Our Master Gardener volunteers help us disseminate information out into the general public by several different ways. They do public workshops, which I gotta be honest, some of their public workshops are a little bit more fun than the technical side of things that we have to deliver about turf grass or pesticide credits and education. So they do public workshops. They station themselves at libraries to do plant clinics, where people can come in from the outside and ask them their random plant questions. So they get stationed at every single library in our county, which we have five. Um, they almost 100% solely maintain our demonstration garden at our office, which is a super big way that we can display horticulture education. Since it's a demonstration garden, we want to demonstrate something that they can take back to their houses and replicate. They also work in our office. We have a very dedicated master gardener who's here every Monday and Wednesday morning, and he helps us pack up soil samples, which we get thousands of those every year. He answers phone calls when we're a little bit bogged down or not in the office doing something else. So, and it's solely volunteer based. They have to get a certain number of volunteer hours a year and continuing education hours. And then they also have an association here, which is a nonprofit and a funding mechanism for them as well. So they do awesome volunteer work. They really help me out a lot and they really teach me a lot too. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. We similarly have master gardeners here in our state. I would say if you're interested or if you know somebody that might be interested in this or going down the road to becoming a master gardener, if you go online and go to Georgia Master Gardener Extension Volunteer Programs, just Google that, it'll come up. There's a Find Your Program tab, and you can actually go on and see which counties offer it. Some of this needs to be is a little bit misleading in terms of who offers the program, though. So that's something that if you have questions, always contact your county extension office. But if you're in Effingham and surrounding areas, we work with the Coastal Master Gardener Group, so we partner with them. So we do have kind of a joint effort there, but a lot of that is based out of Chatham. So the Chatham office really runs that program. So if you're in our area and are interested, get with me, but or you can contact their office, Richard Evans down in Chatham. We also have one down in Glenn County with MC Hallbrook. If you're in kind of in between either McIntosh, Liberty, any of these coastal counties, you can choose. There is ways to go to either one, but just wanted to throw those out there as some really good opportunities. A lot of master gardeners for us are up in the northern part of the state, so but I just want to throw those resources out there.
And
Go for it, Tay.
whenever I was in Georgia, Clay County, which has a very small
Mm-hmm.
population, but they were interested in starting a Master Gardener program. So any county in
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, probably in North Carolina as well, has the ability to
Yep.
start that Master Gardener program. I started looking into it when I was in Clay County, and it seemed kind of like a daunting task. There are a lot of requirements and certifications and courses that you as the instructor have to go through, but
Yep.
I really think it's worth it if you have that volunteer base and people who want to do it. I was very fortunate here that I came into a Master Gardener program of 80 plus people, and I have a Master Gardener coordinator who has been here for 5 plus years. She was a Master Gardener before. She was the president of the association. Now she's the volunteer coordinator, and she really helped me out in learning that Master Gardener rope. So if you're interested in starting a Master Gardener program, definitely talk to someone who has one that is functioning and well running, and they'll have some helpful pointers for you to get you down the right direction.
For sure, and I think you made a good point. It's you mentioned daunting, and it's and we when we say that, I don't want it to come across as a negative thing for this program because that's not what we're trying to say. It's if you got the right agents that are really interested and see the need in the community of for master gardeners, it it works out once you get established that first year. It starts to flow a little bit better, and it becomes pretty much a a well-oiled machine after a few years. I know Mary Claire just or MC just did her first year of it, and she did an excellent job. Had a really good class of folks. So, and it's all age ranges, right? So it doesn't. It's not just one age range or demographic. So anyone is welcome to it. Anyone that's interested, contact your local extension office. And if and they can give you some more information on either locally or neighboring counties that they work with to host it. So definitely want to put that plug in. But Tay, can you tell me some more about like what some of the differences that you've kind of experienced since changing? Obviously, you went from Clay and Randolph being more very rural, different, maybe a different needs in the community, and now you're in a much bigger area. Can you talk a little bit more on some of the differences that you've seen?
So there are quite a few differences. One, I would say when I was in that more rural county, I was heavily involved with the county leadership. I knew my
Mm-hmm.
commissioners, I worked with them on
Right.
a daily basis. I knew my county manager. We worked together and collaborated on projects oftentimes. Here, since we do work on such a big county complex, I don't have that ability to work so closely with them. Our county director, it's a standalone position. They don't have any other agent responsibilities. Their sole job is to run our office, and she is a great liaison and representative for us to those county commissioners and county leadership. She goes to bat for us constantly, but it kind of alleviates some of that pressure as well because when I was in Georgia, I did work two counties. I had to be at two county commissioner meetings a month. I've been in North Carolina for the past 2 years and I haven't had to go to one. I've met all the commissioners. They're very invested in cooperative extension as a whole. They love what we do over here, whether it is horticulture based, agriculture based, or 4-H based, family and consumer science based. They're very, very supportive. They're very generous, but I don't have to necessarily put myself out there to them all the time, which is something that's very comforting knowing you have a director that can go to bat for you, and that's kind of one of her main jobs. So that's a big, big difference. So also
That's
another difference is
mhm.
honestly my amount of calls, the influx of calls that we get, the amount of site visits I get, it is constant, constantly moving. The phone is always ringing off the hook. So I definitely stay extremely, extremely busy here just because we have such a high population, and a lot of newcomers in the area. Honestly, that's one of our biggest clientele. kind of demographic is the newcomers in this area from up in the Northeast, learning about how to garden in the Southeast. So,
Well, that's a good segue into my next part. Since the call volume has increased, you've probably been able to kind of, because you've been there, what now, a year, a little over a year?
it will be 2 years come September 1st.
September 1st. So in that time, you went through one whole cycle and you're going into a second full year. Uh, what are some of the questions and topics that you focus a lot on, or what are some of the hot topics right now that people could, even here in Georgia, might be interested in knowing some of how to fix them or how to solve them?
Yeah, so one of the main questions and comments I get in this county is related to turf grass. People who come from the Northeast or the Midwest, the first thing they say is growing turf grass here, growing grass here is hard. It's harder than it was where I came from before. So turf grass is one of our biggest concerns because we do have so many developments and neighborhoods, and these HOAs require homeowners to have a certain percentage of turf grass in their lawns. And then if that turf grass doesn't look all that great, if there's patches in it, if there's extremely weedy areas, they could get fined. They could get a citation, they could get a notice from the HOA. So they could potentially get in trouble for not keeping this nice, pristine lawn. So there are several turf grass pests, whether that's insects and diseases that affect this area that don't affect areas a little bit to the north or west of us. And I just am constantly getting that. Well, it's so hard to keep grass up here or down here, depending on where you are in the country. It's so hard to keep grass here because all I did whenever I lived where I lived before was throw out fescue or ryegrass or bluegrass, and it
Yep.
just nice and green and beautiful all year round. Well, here we only have four cultivated turf grass options. They're warm season turf grasses, and they take a lot of input and it takes a lot of work. And it's just that kind of educational process of teaching people how to do that. Um,
What are some of the turf grass varieties that are the most common that are around you?
So the four main ones that are used down here are Bermuda grass and centipede grass, zoysia grass, and St. Augustine. Bermuda and centipede are definitely more common. We see the most problems out of centipede grass. Zoysia grass is kind of one of those that it's starting to become more popular. People are reaching to it as a different option because it can have different looks to it depending on what variety you get. And then St. Augustine grass is definitely less popular in this area, but we do see it every now and then in yards.
Yeah, I'd say for us, centipede and Bermuda are obviously very top notch, but then we get a lot of highway bahia grass in people's yards or farm grass, any kind of just random hodgepodge of just grass varieties, not necessarily an actual lawn grass that we would recommend. But we get a lot of centipede, Bermuda. I get some St. Augustine, and I have gotten a few zoysias, but that's about, for the most part, it's centipede and Bermuda. And a lot of times the Bermuda is we have a lot of people that still have common Bermuda in their yards just because that's what they have. But anybody that's putting in new yards, they're going into the hybrid Bermudas and things like that. So we are seeing that a little bit more. I personally prefer centipede grass just because of maintenance and things. But you're right, like coming from a different environment coming in, we have a lot of people moving here too. Nowhere near the population growth that you're seeing, but we're still getting a pretty big one. Just in the last couple of years, we've jumped about 12,000 people in Effingham or close to it. So I mean, it's moving that way for us. It's just not as fast, obviously, as y'all's, and we're still half the county as you. But it is interesting seeing the differences of a lot of folks coming from other parts of the country, not understanding the climate here and the work that's involved with turf. When it comes to some of the issues that you're seeing specifically, What are some of like the stuff you do on a day-to-day basis? What's your primary focus in terms of maybe research or things like that?
Yeah, so one of the biggest issues that we have problems with right now is a emerging pest called ground pearl. It is an underground scale insect. Um, it is hot pink in color in its adult form, so it's my favorite color when it's an adult. But in its nymph form, it is actually a whitish yellow cream round little pearl. So that's how it gets its name. It feeds on the grass roots. So it completely decimates lawns, especially lawns that have a slower growing root system, like the centipede grass. So I find it funny you say centipede grass is your preferred turf grass when mine is Bermuda grass because it just grows so fast, you don't see the damage as much. If you see ground pearl in a centipede lawn, you can be almost sure that you won't have much of a lawn come a few years down the road. So,
I totally no, I get what you're where you're coming from with the Bermuda for that part too, because I would say I like Centipede because it's low maintenance in terms of the inputs. I will, but it is more finicky in terms of death rate and things like that. In my opinion, than Bermudas. Bermudas can hang in there a little bit better, and they don't show as bad of dead spots. As bad as Centipede. Centipede thins out pretty quick.
yeah, I like to tell people that centipede grass is picky, just like me. So, there are a lot of requirements that have to go into it, all the way to pH. The pH for centipede
Yep.
grass to be more acidic than any other turf grass. So, once you get playing around with changing the pH of your grass, a lot of the times you have to lower it. You're putting out sulfur at inaccurate rates. You could really cause some damage to your yard. So, it's called the lazy man's grass, but I think it's the picky man's grass. That's just my personal anecdote, though. The ground pearl, though, it could be a problem in Georgia as well, in
Hmm.
that have sandier soils closer to the
Yep.
eastern state and the coastal side. They actually began emerging in blueberry stands in the sandier parts of Georgia and Florida. So they've slowly made their way up towards this area. 9 times out of 10, the turf problems that we have, they are related to ground pearl. So,
Interesting. So what are if and because I know for a fact I've seen. All right, and if y'all Google, if anybody Googles those, you'll be like it'll be a light bulb that goes off. Um, what's treatment options? Like, how do you get rid of them?
so that's a great question. And if you have the answer to that, let me know. No, I'm just kidding. But there are actually no chemicals on label right now to treat for ground pearl. I've heard of a few companies saying that they have the treatment for ground pearl. I'd like to see how efficient those are truly,
Hmm.
because, like I said, right now, there are no research-based chemical options to get rid of this pest, this insect. So, what I tell people is to keep your grass as healthy as possible, the
Hmm.
proper fertilization, um, proper mow height, proper irrigation, not overwatering or underwatering. Keeping it as weed-free, disease-free, and pest-free, insect-free as you possibly can. If all else fails, plant Bermuda grass. And then if all else fails with that, decrease your lawn size and start mulching out those beds, increase your raised beds areas or your ornamental beds. So that's
That's
my,
a really like I like that a lot because I tell you that's it's an unfortunate thing, but your progression right there of your thought process is exactly right. And sometimes you got to look at the cost, right? So if the cost outweighs the means, then sometimes you got to go with the cheapest option and what's best suited for you. But I did like how you mentioned that you can still have a good landscape even if you don't have if your lawn's just not working out, right? You can still expand those beds. You can mulch. You can do some things like that. Bring in some more plants, some different kind of woody plants and things like that, or shade tolerant, or some ornamentals. But it doesn't have to be a lawn necessarily. In some cases, I've seen some of these houses where they're putting these subdivisions and things, and I know for a fact they're going to be fighting uphill battles with some of their either their lawns, their grass, things like that. So I want to make sure that people know that it's okay to not have the best yard in the world, but you can still have a really nice landscape.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, and there are even other ground cover options like white clover
Hmm.
or Bahia grass. It doesn't have to be a
That's
cultivated
right.
grass to still look nice. And I'm a big proponent of rewilding your yard, so just letting nature take course. I always say if it's green, it's fine by me. So, but some people like to have that nice pure stand of turf grass. But when you're dealing with things like ground pearl that just don't have a treatment available right now, um, sometimes you have to reach towards other options like a ground cover or weeds even. So.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Because some people might look at you like, why would you want all them weeds? But I'll even say like, Bahia grass. Some people like it, and I will say, from a turf management standpoint, the common Bahia that we see that gets in everybody's yard, it's not the best Bahia out there. But I will say what I've seen tend to happen with Bahia is it can handle a little bit more traction and uh, kind of wear and tear. So if you're going to have a lot of people driving on it, people running on it, kids playing in it, stuff like that, I do think Bahia has a place because it can hold up a little bit better. I know a lot of horse people like to have it in their riding pastures and things like that because it can hold up a little bit better. So there are options for sure for turf. What's been one of your favorite things that you've been able to do now in your new role at NC State?
So I'm going to share two different things. One of my favorite things is the Habitat for Humanity partnership that we have built with our local Habitat for Humanity. Like I kind of said earlier, I was fortunate to come into a program that was fully fledged out. So this Habitat for Humanity program fell right into my lap. But I'm so excited about how I've continued it and grown it. So for every Habitat for Humanity house that gets built in Brunswick County, we landscape the property for free in partnership with the Habitat client family. So basically, we provide them a free landscaping of foundational plants catered to their likes, the amount of time they want to spend out in the garden, the amount of experience they have. We
Yeah.
do the partnership from a local nursery. They donate plants to us. We have a master gardener be a team lead or myself to
Hmm.
design the landscape. And then we have volunteers come out their day of to plant it all together. And it's just really such a special program that you are adding a little bit to this person's new chapter in their life. They're finally getting stable housing. What's one way that we can improve that housing for them? Add some plants. You don't realize how much plants add to the quality of life until you're out there planting these plants at a habitat house for someone who once before didn't have that stable housing situation. So that has just been so special to be able to continue that on and build the relationship with the Habitat for Humanity clients. They are some of the most hardworking, gracious, and appreciative client base I have ever worked with in my life. So honestly, it makes me get goosebumps just talking about
Hmm.
we have one coming up next week that we're planting, and honestly, it's just a good chance too to get down and dirty with your master gardeners, really get in the dirt with them and plant these plants alongside of them to show them that you are as committed to their work and improving horticulture in general in this area as they are. So it's just a good like fellowship moment. Um, the other program that I really love is
Hmm.
I've been calling Horticulture for All. And this was originally built out and inspired by me working with special needs children to deliver horticulture education by doing
Hmm.
scavenger hunts in our garden, by going on to local nature trails, and even doing school gardens with special needs classes. This is like a personal passion project for me. My nephew, he's 13 years old. Next week actually is his birthday, so happy birthday, Weston, if you listen to this. Uh, I have known him since he was 3 years old. He is nonverbal autistic. I love him to death. I love seeing the wonder that he has in the world and how peaceful he is when he's in nature. So being able to deliver that to other children with differing needs and disabilities, it's just been really special to be able to build that out in my county programming. I really feel like we're reaching an underserved population of children, and we're just expanding their world, introducing them to new things that they might not see on a day-to-day basis, and just getting them outside, letting them be free and expressing themselves. That's just been really great for me as a passion project because I grew up working with special needs children at a summer camp. Didn't really have a lot of involvement with any kind of special needs promotions or things that benefit them other than that family tie with my nephew. But now I get to do this at work and it's just really special. So it's definitely my most favorite thing. So
That's amazing. I love that. Well, Taylor, we're kind of getting close to the end of our segment, so I just want to say thank you so much for being here and taking time to kind of share some of your insight on Georgia Extension now, and your time also now with NC State Extension, and just some of the differences. I think it's very important for the public to understand Extension, not just in their own state, but in neighboring states and across the country. Extension is very important. And now more than ever, I think it's important for us to realize that and recognize the impact that extension's having across our country. Every state has some sort of tie to an extension program, a cooperative extension, and I just love being able to have folks share their insight and their perspective and their experiences in their own state with folks in our state, so they can kind of get a better idea of what extension's actually there to do and what impact we can have. Maybe not in the most traditional ag sense, but in areas that are more urban or focused in more of your consumer horticulture areas. So I appreciate that a lot, Taylor. Thank you.
yeah, thanks for having me. Just being from UGA Extension and coming over to North Carolina Extension, it showed me one thing that I do truly love the mission of Extension, cooperative extension services, regardless of what state you'd put me in. I think I would find my way back to Extension. And that's the beauty of Extension too. You could get an extension job in all 50 states of North Carolina, and that's great for job security, especially when you have someone who loves the mission of it and how we deliver that mission. So I know you have it as well because you inspired that in me. So I've
Well, I
loved
appreciate
talking
that.
about it today.
Thank you. Before we finish up and sign off, I do want to go over a few upcoming events with everybody. Normally, this is Savannah's thing, but she gave me some notes to share with everybody. So first and foremost, we just had our corn solids field day yesterday, so hopefully some of y'all made it out to that. We also had Scout School in Midville this past week as well. So a few of the other ones they're upcoming, I do want to let people know on July 23rd, we have the Cotton Mid-Year meeting in Statesboro. So more information about that is being sent out. If you'd like to find out some more information, please reach out to your agent for that, your local county agent. July 24th, I'm excited to talk about this one. I'm hoping to attend myself, is the citrus update at the Vidalia Onion Research Center. That's in Lyons/Reedsville, depending on if you're from Tatton or Toombs County. People just see that in two different locations. July 31st, we have the Southeast Georgia Cattle Update in Metter, and that's with our buddy Ross Green and Savannah Tanner. August 6th, we have the Midville Field Day, and I'm a part of that. Me and Savannah both. We've talked about Midville on here before. It's one of our favorite events, so we'll be having that, hopefully, barring any kind of, God forbid, any kind of hurricane weather like we did last year during this time. We'll actually be able to host that again. And then August 27th is the Southeast Pecan Field Day. That is also going to be in Reedsville. And more information about the actual location and that event will come out at a later date. So as we get more information, we'll definitely share that. And finally, from a more localized standpoint, we do have a current program going on. So if you go to Effingham County Extension's Facebook page, we're working with Glenn County's Extension. They're hosting a rain barrel fundraiser. So I've worked with Mary Claire and worked out a deal where if anybody locally in Effingham decides to purchase a rain barrel, I can coordinate with those individuals to actually go and pick those up, and then you can pick them up at your local office. instead of having to drive down to Brunswick. But that is also an option if you would like to drive down to Brunswick and pick up. All the information, like I said, for that is on Facebook at UGA Extension Effingham County. All of the upcoming events and any updates from the Tilling It Like It Is obviously will be on our Facebook page and should be uploaded to our blog hopefully next week, or by the end of this week. Sorry. So with that, we hope to see y'all next time. And in the meantime, keep tilling it like it is. Thank you so much.
Saw an old man in a veteran's hat at the service station pumping his gas. Pulled up beside him, Blair, and beside Merle. He said, "There's still some good in this world."